Hey guys, so I wanted to speak a little bit today about a subject that I've talked about in the past, which is, um, well, it's actually maybe several subjects you might say. So it has to do with compassion, it has to do with forgiveness, it has to do with non-judgment, it has to do with innocence. And when in the past I've talked about these subjects, I'm often referring to the Christian tradition, the Bible, and specifically, stories that involve Jesus and things that maybe Jesus had said. And the reason I do this primarily is because these are familiar stories to most people in our culture. But I wasn't first exposed to these ideas through Christianity. I was exposed to them through the Zen tradition. And today I wanted to share some stories from this book. It's a wonderful book, Zen Flesh Zen Bones. This has been with me 20 years, since before I started my Zen journey. And it's got a wonderful yogic text, yogic tantric text at the end of it. So it's actually kind of a hybrid book, and it was my first exposure to tantric yoga. And the tantric part of the book was one of my favorite parts of the whole book. So it actually was maybe the beginning of my yogic journey, was actually reading this book and getting this book, and the way that it aligned with my experience of what I was experiencing through Zen. So there are three stories in this book that involve thievery. And I like this idea because, again, most of us think that thievery is bad, it is wrong. So if we see someone stealing, if we have stolen, how do we handle this? What is the compassionate thing to do? What is the right thing to do? Don't we have to punish thieves? Isn't that the right thing to do? If we don't punish thieves, don't we end up in a world where everyone is thieving or stealing all the time? Now, I'm not saying that we don't need to punish thieves or that you shouldn't. I'm not saying anything of that sort. I am going to share three stories here, though, from this book where thievery took place, and how did the enlightened teacher or the enlightened individual deal with that situation. And we'll hopefully take a look at that a little bit. Okay, so I'll share the story with you first, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about each story. All right, so the first story is called The Moon Cannot Be Stolen. Ryokan, a Zen master, lived the simplest kind of life in a little hut at the foot of a mountain. One evening, a thief visited the hut only to discover there was nothing in it to steal. Ryokan returned and caught him. "You may have come a long way to visit me," he told the prowler, "and you should not return empty-handed. Please take my clothes as a gift." The thief was bewildered. He took the clothes and slunk away. Ryokan sat naked, watching the moon. "Poor fellow," he mused. "I wish I could give him this beautiful moon." Interesting, right? Probably not how most of us would react to having something stolen or taken from us. Probably we would be upset. We would likely call the police. If the thief got away, we would likely feel like justice had not been served. We probably would not be giving the thief something if our house was, miraculously empty. I don't think most of us have empty huts to live in, but if we did, and a thief came looking for something and they showed up empty-handed, I doubt we would be giving them something. So there's a lot in that story, and it's a good idea for you to think and contemplate long and hard about this story, about what it's saying. Compassion. He felt sorry for the guy. He came a long way. He was hoping to find something, get something. and there was nothing in the hut. So he gave him the only thing that he had, which was the clothes off of his own back. Also, the notion of poor fellow, again, compassion, understanding. Someone who would sink to the point of thinking that they needed to steal. Is that someone who needs to be punished? Or is that someone who needs an extra dose of loving and compassion? See, we as human beings, we will likely not solve the problems that we have today, whether it be racism, whether it be the environmental problems we have, whether it be the division that we see in our country, until we begin to cultivate understanding and compassion for where people are coming from. And we begin to address things. Again, does someone really need punishment? Is there such a thing as justice? Does anything really belong to anyone? Does your body even really belong to you? Each of these are subjects that we could talk for hours on, okay? But these are questions that I want you to think maybe in your contemplation. Contemplation I define as a little different than meditation. Meditation, you're just resting in being. Contemplation, once you're in that being space, once you're in that meditative space, you can ask questions, you can inquire, you can begin to look deeper into certain subjects. And so we might ask, does anything truly belong to me? What truly belongs to me and why? Because I paid money for something, do I think that now that belongs to me? Because I marry somebody and I take vows, do I think that that person now belongs to me? Because I give birth to someone, I think that that person belongs to me, my child, my husband, my wife, my friend, my house, my country, my planet, my people. The ego tends to take possession of things that really don't belong to it. And we can make an argument that nothing belongs to us in reality. That maybe we belong to whatever it is, to God, to the universe, to Source, but nothing really truly belongs to us. So we can see a recognition of this in this first story, where this gentleman, he felt compassion for someone who is in that illusion of ownership and in the illusion, living the illusion of lack. There really is no lack. We live in an experience of only abundance. Even what we call lack is a form of abundance. And you have to understand that true lack is really nothing. Having an empty stomach that is growling is something. That is not nothing. So again, our perception of lack, our perception of wanting is something. You have something, you have a desire, you have a want. So this is a kind of uniquely human thing that comes from our big brains and our thinking, where we actually perceive a lack where there really isn't any. So I had planned to talk about all three of these stories, but I've been having some issues with video on my computer. So while the getting is good, I'm going to cut this off at about 10 minutes and I'll upload this, and it's my intention to talk about the other stories in the future. So this will be like a little series for you. So anyway, I hope you got something from that. Again, these are questions for us to look. I'm not presenting an answer here. I'm not telling you how to approach the next time you're faced with, wrongdoing, what you consider wrongdoing, stealing, whatever it is. But you might see how this Zen master, he's not judging this individual. If anything, he has compassion for him, and he actually gives away the only possessions he really has to give away out of compassion. So this is an example for all of us. All right, everyone. Namaste. Thank you.